Hi everyone, it's Grace. I'm the author of Grace Notes and the creator of Eating Peace, online program and in-person retreats, and writing a book on the same topic. That's going to be a while before that comes out. And of course, Peace Talk, my new podcast, all related to the same thing, the ultimate desire and interest in peace, and the feeling of peace being here now. Now, where I left off on my last video was in summarizing my journey of recovery from terrible eating wars, just having a battle with food and eating, my body, my appetite, my willpower, whatever I thought that was, just a huge argument with the way all of it was, and a journey that seemed to be quite long to get over this. And really land at peace, which I feel day to day now for quite a few years. It's awesome. What I shared with you all was a little bit about that journey, how long it took, and then these 4 broad areas that I began looking at as I explored only in the past few years or so. What the top, most key, most wonderful and important teachings and ideas that really brought health and healing and peace right inside of me so that I experienced it as a reality. And these 4 broad topics that I began sort of summarizing and categorizing things into were mind, feelings, body, and spirit. And I just wanted to share with you today a few key points that you can start using right now in each one of those. So, in mind, what I mean by mind and what we're often talking about when we speak of mind is thoughts, beliefs, what you're using to access something that seems to go on around in here. Don't know for sure where thinking comes from or what's happening, but it seems to be residing somewhere in the brain, right? And people mostly feel it in the head. But it maybe have a much more expansive world than that. But, we won't get into too much philosophy right now. Who knows where all these thoughts and beliefs and ideas come from? But somehow it's the way we're perceiving our view and using like analysis to really look and discover and find out what's true, what's really true. And the mind was so important to me. I mean, the mind was like almost too important, really. It was part of the whole problem in the first place. But that mind really needed to know some things and sort of catch up maybe with what the body already knew and assist in feelings and becoming more comfortable with feelings. Spirit, of course, is kind of holding all of it. That's what I mean by spirit, but more on that in a moment. So mind, what can you do? How do we look at mind? Where does what I found fit in? Number one thing, something called stories. Stories, your story of what's happened in the past, and therefore what you think is going to happen again in the future. Your story of what is going on now, and then how you react based on what your experience is of the past. So if you really begin to look at your stories about food, about what you put on food, what you think food is going to do to you, what's going on in different situations around food, what other people told you about food and eating, how you're supposed to eat, when you're supposed to eat, what you're supposed to eat, if you began to question those or realize that they are stories. Not everybody contains or holds those same stories in their experience and in their life. And you begin to switch out some of your stories, dissolve some of the stories that don't work for you through self-inquiry. That can be one of the most remarkable steps you could ever take on healing this inner angst with food and eating. So my favorite tool of all time for self-inquiry is the work of Byron Katie. It's very simple, and there's 4 questions. When you identify a story, the very first question you ask is this true? It can be as narrow as something like, don't eat after 6 o'clock at night, otherwise you'll gain weight, or whatever all the crazy things we think of that we learn about food and eating, and just trying to gather and save and keep all those factoids that really aren't necessarily true. So you identify something that you think of as very, very real, that you're concerned with, and just ask, is it true? Second question, can you absolutely know that that's true? Third question, how do you react when you think that thought? What happens? When I believed all the thoughts that I thought, when I believed all those concepts about food and eating and my body and what it meant and what weight meant and what looking good meant and what image I was supposed to be, when I believed all those thoughts and didn't even question them, I was a mess. I was an emotional wreck. The fourth question is, who would you be without that belief? And this is the second part of the mind category that is phenomenal when you actually bring it to light, which is your mind is an incredible thought-making, meaning-making machine, and you can use that for good, not evil. So you can use your imagination to make to feel what it would be like to have the most incredible non-story experience. It may take more than just this short video to really explain that and go into depth with all the examples I have in my life. But just imagine who you would be without the belief that your eating stories are true, or that your thoughts about food are true, that the way your body looks means what you think it means. Who would you be without that story? And then the last piece of the work is you get to turn around your concept and just check out the opposite, the complete opposite. So if you think it's bad to feel full, for example, just imagine what it would be like to believe the opposite. It's wonderful to feel full. What I mean by full right there is satiated, comfortable, filled, fueled, like you've got energy for the next thing. So you can find more about the work at thework.com or at my website, Work with Grace. And doing the work is an absolutely spectacular way to work with that mind that is so busy. And often the beliefs you have, the beliefs learned from a very young age in the mind, even about other people, even that have nothing to do with food or eating, are the things that cause the greatest amount of stress and pain when it comes to food. So I always start when I teach the online program with mind and how to work with the mind and how to heal the mind first. The mind seems to need the most healing in my opinion, in my experience, whatever we're calling the mind here. I don't know if it needs the most healing. Maybe every single piece of it needs healing and it all links together. That's more true. So second category for study, or for really placing things that I learned and knew and were most beneficial, I call the feelings category. Feelings. Making friends with my feelings has been the most amazing experience and the most difficult at first to understand how to do. But it is what I'll share with you today that you can at least begin with, is that noticing what you actually feel and not immediately doing something about it is a huge new practice. When I used to feel anger, terror, sadness, or discomfort, even mild anxiety, I used to think immediately, I need to do something. And I would do something. And often that something was eat. Sometimes it was something else. Run away and hide, avoid. But these feelings were so incredibly uncomfortable that I would do anything not to feel them. There's many things that you can do to help yourself feel your feelings and watch what happens and allow them to move through your body and move through your experience without compulsively trying to avoid or control them. So that's my top advice for what I learned in the feelings category that really helped heal, is just accepting the feelings you've got and letting them run through your body and your mind and your heart, just letting them be there, leaving them alone. So simple and difficult if you don't have that as an option. So the third area, the body. Wow, there's so much that fits into this category of just studying the body, being with the body, and what you can do having this body on planet Earth. And what I'll share with you today is that it became my experience. What I really recognized was that the body is the vehicle for being here now. The body is the place that feels all the feelings, that seems to think the thoughts, that is being here. And the most beautiful way to use the body is to access the spaciousness of this moment now. And being here now, if you did nothing else except to experience what it is to be right where you are in the moment now without doing anything, the wisdom of doing nothing, if that's all you could manage, you could heal yourself from eating trouble. Isn't that amazing? We just don't know it. It's very hard to practice. Holding still without doing something, just incredible. But just think of what that looks like. It's sort of silent and quiet and rested, and it's not eating, because eating is doing something. It's not thinking. Thinking's doing something. Just letting everything be the way it is. And I find that accepting the body, being present with the body, is the place that you have the greatest access to that. So there's many other things related to the body, like being more in touch with sensations and where they all occur and where they're felt, and how thoughts and feelings connect together and are expressed in the body. But your body is your friend, and I used to think mine was my enemy. So that's one thing you can take from today, is beginning to see this body and feel this body as your absolute best friend. It's like your envelope or your suit for being here in the world. And as you question your stories, being here in the world becomes easier and easier and more exciting. Okay, last place where they all link together is spirit. I just call this the spirit place. And when I teach the online class, I have like 20 words for spirit that might work for various people. Mystery, silence, some people like to say God, source, magical, fairy godmother, all these things, all these different words, Om, they are expressing something about the mystery and what is beyond all of us, what is beyond this space and this body and this particular small problem. And yet your individual problem with food and eating is linked to what is greater and what is the greater part of the universe. So it's all very meaningful and it's all tied in. And your presence in the universe is just as important as, a tiny drop of sand, even if it seems like your presence is much smaller than the grand scheme of things. So what I love to talk about in spirit is ways wisdom teachings have been so powerful to help me, reading the Tao Te Ching, reading passages in the Bible, understanding some of the greatest spiritual teachers who I loved and some of the ones I grew up with, and the beautiful wisdom, as I said before, of doing nothing, and how that could look and what that means, and how you can bring meditation, rest, and silence into your daily life, and watch how obsession and compulsion with food and eating can melt away slowly but surely. So those 4 areas have so many extensive trails to follow and so much that's involved within each one. But being with each one of those and applying practices into each one, and if you just did the ones that I mentioned today, just sort of thought about those and brought those into your life, I can guarantee you it might make a very big difference for you in your relationship with food and eating. All right. Take care, everybody. I'll be back next week with another video, and I just wanted to be sure to include all this today because I know so many people have been asking about the upcoming online retreat. On Valentine's Day, I'm going to open registration for the online 3.5-month program. The program actually starts February 22nd, and we go very deeply, spending an entire month on each of those 4 categories or modules I mentioned: mind, feeling, body, and spirit, and how they all contain different aspects of healing for food and eating. So we just spend time on each one of those with a presentation each week, and we get together live on the phone every single week on Wednesdays. I won't say much more about that here, but I know people have been writing and asking, and I'll have registration capacity up on my website on the online page on Saturday, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. I love it. So if you have any more questions, you can always write to me at grace@workwithgrace.com. And even if you never take the online Eating Peace program, I love that you're here. Everything I offer here on video is completely available to anyone who needs it. And I'll be back next week with a new video. All right, take care. Lots of love and lots of peace. Bye-bye.